Hi, and thanks for joining. If you're new here, I'm Wendy and this is Nina's Jewels. My husband and I buy things at garage sales, flea markets, thrift stores, just about anywhere we can find things to sell online and flip for a profit. If that's content you're interested in, you're in the right place. Today's video is going to be what sold for the week of October 1st through 7th. Let's get started. The first thing we sold was a Facebook Marketplace sale. It was one of the items from the B-Stock liquidation palette, and it was the last of the working suitcase speakers that we had. Although this suitcase speaker did have an issue, the AM/FM tuner part of it didn't work. The Bluetooth function, everything else, all the other features of this speaker worked. So we did list it, noting that that part of it didn't work, and sold it for $60 even on Facebook Marketplace for local pickup. The next thing that we sold was a Mercari sale. And the reason that we sold this item on Mercari is because we received a VeRO violation for having this item listed on eBay. And I'll show you a copy of the message that we got from eBay. This was an item that we had picked up at the Reseller garage sale. So it was a new in package pack of tarot cards. They were brand new, sealed. Everything about them seemed legit. There was no reason for us to think that anything was awry with them, and I do not believe that there was anything wrong with them. I just don't think that the manufacturer wanted us to sell them on eBay. So we received a VeRO violation, and the manufacturer claimed that they were counterfeit. How they knew that they were counterfeit without seeing them in hand, I don't know. But as we know, being resellers, that kind of thing happens, and we could not, once you get a VeRO violation, there's not really much you can do about it. How could we argue that and prove that in fact these were not counterfeit? They weren't. So we just did not relist them on eBay because it is definitely not recommended to relist anything if you ever get any kind of violation of any kind, unless you receive permission from an eBay customer representative, and then have that in writing saying, yes, you can relist this item. Definitely not worth relisting otherwise. So we decided to relist these tarot cards on Mercari, and they sold almost immediately for $15 even. So that was good because they weren't moving on eBay, so that ended up just kind of working out in our favor. All the remaining sales from this week took place on eBay, so we'll dive right into that. The next 10 sales were all to one buyer. We actually covered these sales in a pick or a poll video that we had, but I'm going to go ahead and cover the first few sales again in this video because we didn't have a ton of sales for this particular week, and it was really interesting that we had so many sales to one single buyer. And if this buyer was a viewer, she did not mention that to us when she purchased these items on eBay. We do say thank you. So Ashley, if you are a viewer, we do really appreciate your purchases. But the next 9 sales were to Ashley. And so I'm going to show you everything that she purchased up here on the screen. And she paid $95 and $96 in total for everything that I'm going to show you here. I did give her really great prices on the items because she had contacted me ahead of time and said, I'm planning to purchase a bunch of items from you. So, I'm going to make lower offers, and that's why. And so I was able to wheel and deal with her a little bit because I knew that I was going to be able to package everything into one big shipping box, and that was going to save me and her a lot of money. So the prices that you see on the screen aren't necessarily the prices that she paid for the item. We were able to give her the items at a deeply discounted rate, sometimes even less than half of what you see on the screen. The first thing that she purchased was a Circle a word search book. This was an item that belonged to us. It was just something that we didn't use anymore. So it was probably something that we received as a Christmas gift, like a stocking stuffer type item. No cost on that for us. Next was a lot of 10 children's paperback chapter books. We got these at a garage sale. I don't know how much we paid for them, but a lot of these we got at that garage sale where we got the free books. So there was probably little to no cost on these, maybe $1 or so. Next up was a lot of Lemony Snicket paperback books. I got these at another garage sale, but I think I paid around $1 for these. Next up was a vintage 101 Hamburger Jokes book. I got this book at the Goodwill bins, and it just brought back memories of my childhood when I had books like this. So I picked it up, probably paid around 50 cents or so for it. Next up were two watercolors. One was they were both kind of designed to go in a bathroom, and they were from 1977. They were original and they were signed by the artist, whose name was Andra. The first one was one of those tall toilets, and then it had like plants all coming out of it. They were really cool. They looked more mid-century to me, but they were marked 1977. We paid, I think, either 10 cents or 25 cents at this particular garage sale for this art. And then the other one was a clawfoot tub with a bunch of plants in it. Next up was a vintage TV guide from 1997 that covered Princess Diana. It was the Princess Diana Legacy edition. That I think we paid $1 for at an estate sale. Next up was a 2011 hard Pokeball case. It was like a Pokeball carry case. We found this in the Goodwill bins. We probably paid around 75 cents for it. And next up was a lot of 19 rubber and PVC dinosaur figures that we had gotten at various times in different toy bags and maybe from garage sales and places like that. And over time we lotted them all together and then sold them as a lot. We probably paid around $2.50 in total for all of these. And last but not least was a 2011 McDonald's Happy Meal toy. It was a Pokemon Zoroark toy. It was new in the package. We got this when we had purchased a big lot of new and packaged McDonald's Happy Meal toys from a garage sale. And we bought them in a bulk deal, and it broke down to costing 11 cents per toy. So thank you to Ashley for making that big purchase. That was really helpful. We really appreciated it. Moved out some of our old product, and hopefully you enjoyed your purchase. Next up was a lot of 2 Nolan Ryan photographs. These were actually photographs. They were very large. They were 20 by 24. But they were printed on photograph paper. These sold on a best offer for $30. We actually had 2 sets of these, and the other set sold a long time ago. Next up was a Fujifilm digital camera with a nylon case. We got this camera at a garage sale. We paid $10 for it, and it sold for $40 on best offer. It went to a student who was taking a photography class in California. It's always so interesting to me when we actually know what our products are going for. So if someone sends us a message to say, we're using this item for this or that, I always like to have that connection. That's always so interesting to me. Next up was a new in package #1 wax candle, like a birthday cake candle you could combine it with another number and make it any number, but for a first birthday would be traditionally what this would be used for. The brand was Spritz, and we picked this up in the Goodwill bins. We just picked it up because it was new in package, and you're paying by the pound at the Goodwill bins. We probably actually only paid a few cents for this, but the way we always do our Goodwill bins trips is we average out our cost based on how much we paid and how many listings we got out of it. So that day we said that we paid 92 cents per listing. And this item sold for $7.99. It did not sell very quickly, but we always end up selling these items over time, and they don't take up much space. So at the bins, we just pick up items like that. Next up was a vintage art print. This came from the other business that we own, which is a custom picture frame shop. This was a signed and numbered print called Vision of Tranquility. It was of doll sheep, and the artist was Michael Coleman. This sold for $39.98 on offer to buyer, and our cost was $0 because this was something that had been in the storage area of that business for a very long time. Next up was a vintage pack, I don't know if that's the right word, a vintage book of matches. None of them were struck. They were unused matches. These were from the restaurant, the iconic Fort Worth restaurant, Joe T. Garcia's. These were matches that belonged to me. I'd had them for a very long time, just never used them. and decided to sell them because things from Joe T's are collectible and people collect matchbooks. They sold for $14.38 on offer to buyer, and we got positive feedback on those. Next up was a pair of juniors or women's So brand jean shorts. The style was low-rise shorties. We actually had two pairs of these at one time that were exactly the same, and the other pair sold a long time ago. And this pair finally sold for $14.99, which was our full asking price. Our cost was $0 because these belong to my daughter, and I think they were purchased for her by one of her grandparents. Next up was an IKEA frame installation kit or art installation kit. And this we found in our other business, which is a custom picture frame shop. What I'm guessing is somebody brought in some IKEA artwork to have framed, and this was part of their purchase originally, and this just got left behind and they didn't need it after they had it custom picture framed. So we found that in the storage area, and I looked it up and it looked like people were purchasing them, so I listed it, and it eventually sold for $12.99, which was our full asking price, and like I said, we had no cost for that. Next up was a vintage barrel giant desk mount 6-hole pencil sharpener. Vintage pencil sharpeners, the desk mount or the wall mount, or any kind of the large crank style pencil sharpeners are definitely collectible. A bolo, something you want to pick up if you can get it for the right price. This one sold for our full asking price of $29.99. It sold pretty quickly, and we had paid $4 for that at the Hoarder estate sale. Next up was a Nickelodeon brand kids size small Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Michelangelo hoodie. It had eye holes on it so you could pull the hoodie over and look like Michelangelo. This sold right before Halloween, so somebody might have been using it for a Halloween costume. I don't know, but it sold for our full asking price of $27.99, and we had gotten that at a garage sale for $2.50. So that was a good pickup. It was a really cute hoodie. Had like embroidery and stuff on it. It was really well done. Next up was a vintage 1997 extra large Mobile One Presents Brooks & Dunn and Reba McEntire tour t-shirt. And it was like a single stitch vintage t-shirt. So, we always pick up single stitch t-shirts. They will eventually sell. This one did take a while to sell. Maybe we had it overpriced, but it was in like pristine, brand new condition practically. Looked like it had maybe never been worn. We paid $3 for this at the Sugartown estate sale, and it sold on offer to buyer for $31.98. Next up was a Seiko, I'm not sure how to say that, 550-piece glow-in-the-dark puzzle. It was brand new, never opened. We got this at a garage sale for $1, and it sold for our full asking price of $24.99. I've mentioned before, we always pick up brand new puzzles because they always sell. Definitely something to look out for, and we got positive feedback on that. This one might have gone through the global shipping program. I can't remember. A lot of puzzles that we sell do for some reason. Next up was that genuine AV Sony remote control that had been purchased previously and returned. The buyer had originally stated that it didn't work and had returned it via the item not as described option. And when I got it back, I was like, yeah, this does work. I had submitted a claim to eBay saying this buyer has misused the item not as described returns. And of course, you never hear anything back from eBay about that. You don't really know what happened. But I did relist the remote. It sold again for $8.49. We never heard back from this second buyer, but the fact that we didn't hear anything means it was probably working just fine, and we didn't have any issues with it this time. So obviously that there was no issues with that remote. That first buyer was not truthful. Next up was a vintage lot of 28 1970s Liquitex paint. This is definitely a bolo item. If you find vintage art supplies, definitely worth picking up at the right price because they will sell, and a lot of times they will sell really high. I was actually surprised that these didn't sell for higher. We listed these as an auction starting at $49.99, and they sold for the opening bid price of $49.99. And I was surprised that they didn't go higher. I was maybe expecting them to go as high as like around $80. We had multiple watchers on them, so I'm not sure why they didn't. But we had paid $6 for this at the Hoarder estate sale, and we did get positive feedback on this, and I'm not surprised. That paint was in excellent condition. Next up was an Ann Taylor Loft women's size 0 petite fleur-de-lis dress. This we got at a thrift store a long time ago. We paid $4.92 for it. It took forever to sell, but it finally did sell for $23.18 on offer to buyer, and we did get positive feedback on that. Next up was a Soma women's nightgown. We got this at a garage sale, and it sold very quickly for a full asking price of $32.99, and we had paid $4 for this at that garage sale. Soma is definitely a brand you want to be on the lookout for. Sells quickly and it sells high. Next up was a Canon ZR-800 mini DV camcorder, and this one had a case and a battery and a cord. We tested it and it worked. We had gotten 3 of these cameras, all the same cameras, at one garage sale. I don't know why they had 3 of the exact same cameras, but we were excited because they all sold and we got a really great return on our investment for that. This one sold for $76.49, and the buyer had, this particular month, I think we had a coupon on electronics. So the buyer had applied our electronics coupon, and we had paid $20 for this particular camera. Next up was a Viking gas range new in package replacement stove knob. And we had found that in the Goodwill bins. And Viking is a very high-end, expensive appliance brand. So when we had seen that logo or name Viking, we knew to pick that item up. But I mean, honestly, we would probably pick up a replacement knob or a replacement part for any appliance brand if we saw it in the Goodwill bins. But this one in particular, we knew would sell for very high. But it was kind of a long tail item because, you know, a replacement part on an appliance, you just are waiting for the right buyer to come along on it. So this did take over a year to sell. And it did eventually sell for $44 even on best offer, and we had paid just 67 cents for that in the bins. So definitely worth the wait. That was a really good ROI on that one. Next up was a vintage Kenyo cassette tape VHS rewinder. Back in the days when you rented a video cassette, VHS tape from the Blockbuster or somewhere like that, and you had to rewind it before you took it back or else you would get fined. So you had to have that video rewinder so that you could go ahead and start watching another movie and you didn't have to sit there and wait for your VHS player to rewind it. So we had paid $3 for this at the garage sale. This was from the Vintage Goodness garage sale, and this sold very quickly for $21.24. Which was our full asking price minus the electronics discount that we were running. So definitely these VHS rewinders, I would pick them up every time I saw them for the right price, because you wouldn't know if they worked or not without having a tape to test them. But for the right price, definitely worth picking up, because I do think they would also sell for parts only for sure. Next up was another really good pickup. This was a Franklin Fast Play Pocket Bob Clemente left-handed baseball glove. It was really dirty looking when we picked it up. We got this at the Hoarder estate sale, but when we got it home and we cleaned it with like leather conditioner and stuff like that, it cleaned up so nicely and it looked amazing. You can see our pictures made it look really spectacular. My husband did a really great job with the pictures. But we listed this on auction. This was a very old baseball glove, and when I comped it, I could tell that this particular model was selling very well. The comps were great. So I did decide to do it as an auction, and I think our pictures really helped as well, but it got a lot of interest on it, and it sold on auction for $62.21, and we had paid $8 for that at the estate sale. Actually, I think we were supposed to only pay $4 for it, but I had picked up 2 baseball gloves at this estate sale, and one of them, like the basket part of the glove was missing or damaged or something, and we ended up just donating that because it wasn't worth it. And so I just rolled the cost of that one into this one, but it didn't matter anyway because we sold this one for so high. But we did get positive feedback on it, and I'm not surprised. That glove looked great. Next up was one of the large Lego sets that I got at the garage sale where the lady was angry with me. If you haven't seen that video, I will. I don't have the video of her. I only have the aftermath video where I was showing what I purchased and telling the story, but I will link that. This was the Lego Ninjago Lighthouse Siege set, and I had gotten that at a garage sale. I paid $11 for it, and it sold for $50 even on best offer. Next up was a 17-piece lot of Toddler's 2T boy clothing. We had gotten this in the storage auction when we had purchased a storage unit for just $30. If you haven't seen our storage video, I will link that as well. We purchased a storage unit for just $30, and it was very unimpressive in a lot of ways, but totally worth it in the end because that $30, we made that money back almost immediately, and we have definitely made our money over about 5 times at this point, and we still have so much more to sell. This was the first thing that we sold from that unit, and it sold for our full asking price of $32.99. And when we broke down, after we got everything listed from that unit, we broke down everything and said that each of our listings cost only 24 cents because we had paid so little for that unit. So totally worth it. Totally worth all the work and all the sweat and everything to go through everything piece by piece in that unit and take the time to clean it and do all of the work. We will definitely be doing that again. Next up was an antique book. It was called Grunty Grunts and Smiley Smile Outdoors. This was a book from 1921, and it sold for $17.98 on offer to buyer, and we had paid just $1 for this at a garage sale. We were looking at a lot of vintage books at a garage sale, and the people running the garage sale said, "Oh, it seems like y'all are interested in vintage books." And my husband said, "Yes, we are." And she said, "I have some more vintage and antique books. Let me bring them out to you." So this was one of the ones that she brought out to us and just, was selling us all of these antique and vintage books that they had gotten from a family member. And we got great prices on them, and we've sold a lot of them. So definitely worth, visiting with the people that you're buying from, letting them know what you're interested in and getting that rapport going. And we did get positive feedback on that book. Next up was a travel size container of Lee Swatier illuminating primer. I had gotten this in a gift with purchase or maybe my Birchbox or something like that, but it was not a product that I used. It sold for $9.99, and I had no cost associated with it. Next up was something we got in a thrift store toy bag. We paid 20 cents for it, and it sold for $7.48 right in time for Halloween, and it was a pumpkin push bubble pop sensory toy. And there are some keywords that I figured out to use if you ever sell toys like this, although this is not an item that I would ever pick up if I saw it at a garage sale or something. It was just already in a toy bag, and we always list everything from the toy bags to try to see what will sell. It's a learning experience for us to see what will sell, and then also just to try to increase our profits as much as possible from those toy bags. And it always surprises us what does actually sell from those toy bags. This was an item that surprised me for sure. And actually we got another one of these push pop bubble toys again, and I've listed it. But the words I used were fidget, sensory, ADHD, and stress reliever. Those were keywords that were important to use with this. But I got another one in another toy bag, and I got it along with a different style of fidget toy, and so I listed those together as a lot in my next one. The other one that I got was not like a shape of a pumpkin or anything. It was just a square one, so I don't think it'll move as quickly as this one. Next up was a remnant of some gold lame dancewear fabric. I had purchased this or gotten this maybe to use for a sewing project, and then it didn't end up using it. And after a while, just decided to get rid of it. It sold for $9.99, and I have no idea how much I paid for it. I had gotten it like in the remnant section of Joann Fabric, so I probably did not pay very much for it, but we did get positive feedback on it. Next up, I'll go over all of the collectible cards from my husband's personal collection. We did not sell any high value cards this week, and we only sold 2 low value cards, meaning cards valued at $10 or under. And those sold for a total dollar value of $5.58. So that wraps up our video for the week of October 1st through 7th. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please let us know by hitting the like button. And if you're not already subscribed to our videos, consider hitting that subscribe button with the notification bell turned on so you can be kept informed of all of our latest content. Thanks so much for watching, and we will see you on the flip side.